Hi, hello everybody, I'm Justin, this is Koopa, and welcome to Koopa's Corner. Now today we're going to talk about WWE's premium live event, SummerSlam. We're going to preview the match card, make our predictions, and for the first time ever, SummerSlam is 2 nights. Should be a pretty fun weekend. Now they are building it up to be a pretty big, pretty loaded event. A little bit more so than usual. Again, 2 nights. They want it to feel bigger. They want it to have that WrestleMania-esque feel to it. And I'm pretty excited. It should be a pretty good weekend of wrestling. So let's jump right on in with our predictions. Now, first up, I do believe this is official. If not, then I apologize. But the matches, I do have a list of matches for Saturday and for Sunday. I did see something online, and I do believe it's official, but if it's not, then I apologize. But yeah, we're going to start off with SummerSlam Saturday, and I think first up, it's probably going to be the tag team match Roman Reigns and Jey Uso versus Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed. I think this kicks it off. And it feels like, particularly with Seth Rollins out, that, there's really nothing, to give Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed the W here. This feels like, even though they're two kind of up-and-coming superstars, this feels like Roman's match to lose, right? All the momentum is in his corner, and he's the biggest star here. Plus, there's some other stuff that I want to talk about a little bit later, but a loss here, it's sort of that classic WWE tactic of bait and switch, So a loss here for Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker, and a big old W for Roman Reigns and Jey Uso, and we're probably going to spend more time with Jey Uso during his entrance than we are going to get for the match. That being said, hopefully we get a decent match out of it. I'm sure Paul Heyman will have something to do with it, have some kind of role to play. But largely, I don't expect too much from this. This feels like pretty standard fare. We also have Sami Zayn and Karrion Kross. This one's kind of an interesting one, right? Karrion said on Monday Night Raw, hey, Sami, I can't break you. I've been able to manipulate everybody else. I can't manipulate you. You're going to say that Kross was right. But when I beat you, you're going to say it. And Sami Zayn was like, yeah, if you beat me, I'll say whatever you want. But when I win, you got to say this. And so that adds a little extra intrigue to this. I think from a storytelling perspective, right, Karrion Kross is almost the underdog. He kind of feels like he needs the win more to kind of build that credibility up. But Sami Zayn has constantly been reiterating his goal is to be a world champion. His goal is to be a world champion. His goal is to be a world champion. I think that we see Sami Zayn start building some momentum. And I think it starts here. I think he starts getting some big W's in every feud that he has. Because I see Sami Zayn as potentially a favorite to win the Royal Rumble, particularly because it's going to be in Saudi Arabia, which I don't know too many people that are excited about that, but it's going to be there either way. And Sami Zayn has a real connection with the crowd over there. Plus, he's a really big underdog here. He has a really good connection here. He's a great in-ring performer. This feels like the timing is right for Sami Zayn to finally start moving up the card a little bit and maybe achieve that goal by next year's WrestleMania of finally winning the World Heavyweight Championship. So I could see Sami Zayn winning the Rumble. I don't know this far out, obviously, if he's my final pick, but I could see it as an option. And I think that this is the time to start building momentum. So this match is This match is interesting. It feels like both of these guys really could use the W here. The final pick, I'm going to say Sami Zayn. He's going to win. He's going to start building some momentum. All right, there's a big tag team match. Randy Orton teaming up with Jellyroll to take Drew McIntyre and Logan Paul on. Now this one, to be perfectly honest, does little or nothing for me. I don't care about Jellyroll. I don't always love when celebrities get in the ring and wrestle. I get why the WWE likes it, right? It gets some mainstream attention on the WWE product. But unless you're already a fan of Jellyroll from outside of the WWE, what does he add? What has he added to this? He's never going to perform at the level of a regular wrestler, an everyday wrestler. I don't know. It just doesn't do too much for me. I think the most interesting part of all of this is that currently Drew McIntyre is stuck in the United Kingdom with some travel issues. And the WWE is trying to get it sorted out, and so we'll see if he even makes it here for SummerSlam. Now, I'm a huge Drew McIntyre fan. I talk about it a lot. I think a win over a guy like Randy Orton and a big celebrity like Jellyroll could fuel up Drew McIntyre for the foreseeable future, give him some bragging rights, some talking points, and we could kind of see him escalate his way up the card. I think Drew should be more frequently in title contention. That being said, this is a huge spot to be trusted in. They clearly value Drew McIntyre. And with a celebrity like Jellyroll in the match, he's not going to come in, get his ass whooped, and take an L. I can't see that. Too many people have too big of an ego to sign up for something like that, and I just don't see it happening. He's a celebrity guest. He's going to come in. Orton's going to do the bulk of the work. He's going to tag in. He's going to hit a choke slam. 1, 2, 3. And, you send the celebrity home happy. Jellyroll and Randy Orton probably going to win this one. The women's tag team championships are on the line as Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez of the Judgement Day face Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair, who are not friends, by the way. I'm excited for this one. I think this one's got a lot of potential. I think Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair are going to walk away with the W here. Their story is much more interesting at the moment. And until Liv Morgan returns, there's not a whole lot else to gain by Raquel and Roxanne holding the titles. If they hold the titles until Liv returns, then Liv will just take the title back. They could start feuding over it, split the Judgment Day up that way. But that seems too direct, right? It feels better for them to lose the titles and then Liv blame Roxanne for losing her title and kicking off a feud that way. So I definitely think it's a possibility here. Another possibility is, even though she's probably still injured, Liv Morgan could make a little surprise appearance, which accidentally costs the Judgment Day, or on purposely costs the Judgment Day. I mean, SummerSlam is going to be in New Jersey, Liv Morgan's home state. It wouldn't be too surprising to see her make an appearance and potentially rattle the Judgment Day, potentially rattle Dom, who's got a big match this weekend as well. I don't know that she's healed yet. So if she does appear, it's probably not going to be a physical role. And also, why bring her back now if she's not going to be ready to jump in the ring? So I don't know that that's going to happen for sure. I almost think it makes more sense to just leave her off until she's healed. But it's definitely something that could happen. All right, the WWE Women's Championship is on the line as well. Jade Cargill won the number one contendership in the Queen of the Ring tournament. She's going to be facing Tiffany Stratton. Tiffany Stratton has held the WWE Women's Championship for some time now, before WrestleMania. because she was successful in cashing in her Money in the Bank briefcase. I think Tiffany Stratton has sort of been spinning her wheels since becoming champion. She's sort of been riding this, am I a good guy, am I a bad guy? She sort of acts like a good guy, but her character is better suited for a bad guy, and she's somewhere in the middle, and, you know, she has faced Nia Jax 1,000 times and Charlotte Flair a couple of times, and she hasn't really had too much going on. And really, losing the title could change it up for her. She could snap back to a heel, or she could veer full babyface, stop riding this sort of middle ground. She could move on to some other potential challengers, right? If they mix the rosters up, I would love to see Tiffany Stratton hanging out with some of these other incredible performers, but instead of the same 3 or 4 on SmackDown, right? Mix up the rosters, give her some fresh opponents. And Jade Cargill could, excuse me, Jade Cargill could take the title and start her ascent to the top of the mountain. Jade Cargill has been pegged as a future world champion for a long time, and as a huge, huge star for a long time, right? She's somebody who has just tons of aura and tons of star power and tons of it factor, whatever you want to call it. I mean, Jade Cargill is somebody who could really ascend to sort of that next level if they book her correctly. And this feels like it could very well be the start of it. She's finally moved on from that never-ending feud with Naomi. So I predict Jade Cargill is going to win here. We're going to freshen up the women's title scene on SmackDown. And then the main event, SummerSlam Saturday. It's going to be CM Punk challenging Der Ring General Gunther for his World Heavyweight Championship. And this is another interesting one as well, because it feels like Gunther's held the title for a long time, but he hasn't. Like, he had it for a while, then he lost it to Jey Uso, and then he won it back. And he hasn't held it long since winning it back. He could lose the title tonight, but I don't think it's necessarily going to be to CM Punk. And to be honest, I don't think he's going to lose it tonight. I think Gunther wins this match, but I do think we get an appearance here in the main event from Seth Rollins, who either his injury was storyline, not as bad as it was made out to be, or potentially still injured, just to cost CM Punk because of the feud that they have and the history that they have. And he could cost CM Punk, and Gunther could walk away with the title. But if he is healthy, he could just straight up cash in and walk away with the title himself. So I do think that realistically, we are going to see Seth Rollins. I think realistically, CM Punk is going to lose. The question is, does Rollins cash in and win the title, or does Gunther walk away with the title still after all of this? That's kind of the question. And that's how I see it anyway. From a storytelling perspective, from a narrative perspective, that's what makes the most sense. But you do have to factor in the very real, not storyline potential of Seth Rollins' injury and how severely injured he is and how long he's going to be out. The other possible option, and I don't think this is very likely to be honest, but the other possible option that I see is Braun Breaker or Bronson Reed coming out with the Money in the Bank briefcase and attempting to cash it in and, causing a distraction that way. And I think that that's why it makes more sense for them to lose in the opening contest as well, right? To distract from here. They lose momentum early, and then they gain it back here. You think that they're done, you think that they're defeated, you think that they're leaving. Boom, surprise appearance in the main event. Classic WWE tactic, classic bait and switch. So do not be surprised if they lose the tag match in the beginning. I think that one feels pretty straightforward. But again, here in the main event, I think Gunther technically wins the match, unless it becomes a triple threat match. And Seth Rollins costs Punk and maybe cashes in afterwards. So That's a tough one to decide. That is a real tough one to decide. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give Seth Rollins credit for his injury being real. So I'm going to say that he just distracts Punk and Gunther keeps the title. I'm going to try to take that as face value. I know that WWE, they are storytellers. They don't always tell us the truth. They tell us the truth when it fits the narrative. But I'd like to think with something like an injury that they are at least being straightforward about that. So I'm going to go ahead and just assume that Seth Rollins' injury at face value is legitimate. But if it's not, he probably walks away with the title. And that is SummerSlam Saturday. That's got 6 matches as opposed to the usual 5. It is a special start time for both nights of SummerSlam, by the way. I didn't mention that in the beginning. If you're planning on tuning in at 7 like usual, you're going to miss the beginning. 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, Saturday and Sunday. And now, guys, let's jump into SummerSlam Sunday. SummerSlam Sunday will likely open up with the triple threat match for the women's world title. That's Naomi defending her recently won world title because she cashed in her Money in the Bank against both Rhea Ripley and Io Sky, who were having a hell of a match when Naomi got involved. I am not a fan of Naomi. I would love to see either Rhea or Io win the title back here, but unfortunately it's just too soon. Naomi's got to have a little bit more time. Plus, Stephanie Vaquer is waiting in the wings. She won herself an opportunity to fight for the championship in the Clash at Paris by winning the Battle Royal at Evolution. So Stephanie Vaquer is waiting in the wings, and a much better opponent for her is going to be Naomi versus, Rhea or Io, because there's a very clear babyface heel dynamic in that matchup that a Vaquer-Rhea match doesn't have yet, and a Vaquer-Io match doesn't have yet. I think Stephanie Vaquer and Rhea Ripley is a huge, huge, huge match, and they will likely save that for WrestleMania, if not longer. So I definitely think Naomi, unfortunately, retains the title here. The Intercontinental Championship is on the line. Dirty Dom against AJ Styles. And again, this is another potential for Liv Morgan to make an appearance. If she didn't make an appearance in the tag match, she could here. It could distract Dom. It could cost Dom. She might not. Who knows? If she does get involved, AJ is walking away with the title. If she doesn't, it becomes much harder to predict. And so the question is, how likely do you think it is we see Liv? And if we do see Liv, is it here? Right? It feels like Dom probably shouldn't lose the IC title yet. He's much younger, much earlier in his career, and he's sort of building his name up. But there is something to be said for the Judgment Day sort of losing their gold. And, especially if Raquel and Roxanne lose their gold, and then Dom loses it here. There's something to be said about this. I think this is one of the more difficult ones to predict. And there's also part of me that just wants to see AJ Styles win because AJ Styles is one of the best, and he doesn't get big victories as often as he should. And I think a nice run with the Intercontinental Championship be a great way to round out the year for AJ Styles. So, it's tough, guys. It's tough. This is one of the ones I'm struggling with. Realistically, though, I'm going to make a prediction. I have to make a prediction. And I'm going to go ahead and say that Dirty Dom retains the Intercontinental Championship. I just think there's more upside, storytelling potential with that, even though my heart is with AJ. All right. The Intercontinental Championship is on the line. The United States Championship is also on the line. So we move from Dom and AJ all the way over to Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu. They're going to run it back. I understand that, Jacob sort of has a huge upside as well. He has a lot of momentum on his side. this is a big platform to win the title back. But he's the one who gave it to Solo. It hasn't been that long. I don't really want to see a whole lot of hot potato going on here. And there are so many other random family members in the new bloodline. It's hard to keep track. It's not nearly as interesting as the original bloodline. But I think that Solo will retain, and it'll set up a big match. Jacob Fatu and JC Mateo, or Jacob Fatu and Talatonga. I know that JC Mateo was kind of a bigger name when he signed, but Talatonga feels like the match, right? I think Solo retains, and they set up a big match down the road, Talatonga and Jacob Fatu. But I just don't see enough happening here for a title change. So Jacob Fatu retains. That's my prediction. Solo Sikoa retains against Jacob Fatu. The Women's Intercontinental Championship is on the line. Becky Lynch defending her title against Lyra Valkyria. Honestly, I don't see Lyra winning. I've got a lot of title defenses, a lot of people retaining. I would like to predict more title changes. But I don't know. The storyline feels like Bayley is going to get involved. She's going to cost Lyra. She's going to go full heel. And Becky and Lyra have been feuding since WrestleMania. I think it's time for Becky to move on, right? I don't want to see her just sucked in this one feud the entire time. I want to see Becky defend that title against a variety of opponents. And Becky Lynch is one of the best, right? We tend to forget that sometimes because she's not necessarily the top star like she once was, but there are so many great opponents for her. Let's move on from Lyra. There's one other match that I want to talk about, and then we got a main event after that. So one other match, I guess two more matches, because this one and then the main event. But there's a TLC match for the Tag Team Championships on SmackDown. And this one is going to be chaos. We love a good TLC match. We love a good multi-team TLC match. DIY, the Street Profits, the Wyatt Six are the champions right now. They're going to be defending. The Motor City Machine Guns are in there. I feel like I'm probably forgetting somebody, but I think that's only 5 teams. I think there's 6 teams here. Andrade and Rey Fenix, right? The new team. They're not really a team, but they are a team. Andrade and Rey Fenix. So yeah, tons of high flyers. This is going to be just a car crash, but in all the best ways. This is going to be a stunt show, but in all the best ways. Sometimes these matches can feel like you're just moving from spot to spot to spot, and it's disjointed and it's clunky, but when it's with the tag division here, these guys are all really good and they have really good psychology, and they've done a really good job thus far of making these different spots transition into each other well. And they make it feel like one coherent, flowing match rather than just, we did this stunt, now we're going to set up and do this other stunt. And I think that is night and day. That is the difference between great sports entertainment and just not great sports entertainment. And you do see that from a lot of top names. It happens to everybody. It happens once in a while. So it could happen here as well. But either way, this is going to be just a fun disaster with some crazy stuff off the top. And ultimately, though, I think the Wyatt Six will retain the Tag Team Championships. Another defense, a successful defense here. I've predicted a lot of those for this event. But the Wyatt Six have barely won the titles, barely held on to them. And we haven't seen too much of a feud from them, too much of story from them, aside from all the other teams don't like them. There's not much story there. And not that this really matters, but they've got a big Universal Studios Halloween Horror Nights house based on the Wyatt Six that was just recently announced. So, it feels like, well, why cut their momentum here and now, right? And then finally, the main event. John Cena defending his WWE Championship, the Unseen 17, against the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. This one is clearly going to be the main event because it is the biggest match both nights. John Cena's got a dozen dates left, if that. It makes sense for him to transition the title. Cody kind of gets his big win back. You kind of put Cody over, but narratively speaking, it doesn't make a lot of sense for just Cody to come in and win the clean babyface 1, 2, 3, and he's back. There's a lot of people hoping that The Rock will make an appearance. I don't know. I don't think it's likely. The Rock, he just hasn't been anywhere to be seen. I wouldn't be surprised if we did see The Rock that Cody turned heel. Without The Rock, I don't think that's possible. It's possible. I don't think it's likely. I don't think it's probable. But also, the story that's being told kind of makes sense for John Cena to retain. And at this point, I kind of want John Cena to retain. Right, there's always the John Cena seeing the error of his ways and refusing to, hit Cody with the title, and then Cody turning around, hitting him with the title, and winning the title back. That feels like the most obvious thing that's going to happen, right? That feels like the most likely, the most probable thing that's going to happen. John Cena's going to hesitate. He's going to, then he's going to spend the last few dates classic John Cena, back to the good guy John Cena, so he can retire on a happy note. But what if he does what he says? What if he retains? What if he goes his next dozen dates or whatever he's got left, and he retains, and he retains, and he retains, and he retires with the title, and he ruins pro wrestling? How would that ruin pro wrestling? What kind of chaos would there be? From a storytelling perspective, it is the much, much more interesting prospect. Yeah, okay, classic babyface Cody Rhodes wins the title back, and guess what? He's a big star because he beat John Cena. It's boring. It's likely, but it's boring. And I really, really hope we see John Cena at this point do what he says and retire with the title. It would be really, really interesting if The Rock returned and he turned on Cena and Cody turned heel and joined The Rock. But I just don't see it, guys. I very much think Cody Rhodes is going to win this. That is my final prediction. So many title defenses, but one big title change at the end. Send the fans home happy. But I think enough of the fans respect John Cena's work as a heel and as a character throughout his entire career, babyface or heel. He's in such the late stages that I think there's just so much respect for him that I don't think fans are really clamoring to watch him get his ass beat the way that you would for most classic heels. And narratively, it makes so much more sense. I really, really am rooting for John Cena here. It's so interesting. The possibilities are so interesting. So yeah, I'm gonna predict Cody Rhodes, but I'm bummed out that I'm doing that, and I don't want to do that, and I really hope John Cena wins. Anyway, that's SummerSlam, guys. Big event, 2 nights. It's a long video. Been talking for almost a half hour. Let me know in the comments, of all of these matches, what are you most excited for? Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.